Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Gruber Wired. I'm Mark Beach.
I'm John Dotson, and welcome once again. And today we have a very special guest with us, right?
We do. Our new IT director, manager,
system that
guy.
Yeah.
There
Kind
we
of
go.
a little bit of everything, actually.
Yeah.
Mitch.
Yeah. Mitch Ikens here.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
Mitch.
said it because I wasn't going to even attempt it.
Yeah, it's a doozy. It's a doozy.
It's a mouthful. Well, welcome. We're
Thank
glad
you.
to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's great.
Mitch, are you an Arizona native?
No, I was born in Indianapolis, but I kind of consider myself a Chicagoan
Okay.
because that's where I kind of grew up from 9 years on.
Midwestern.
Cass is over here. What you got, Cass?
Midwestern.
Me, I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Chicago.
All right.
Chicago.
Yeah, well, I guess not literally from Chicago because I'm 3 hours south of Chicago.
Uh-huh.
But I say I'm from Chicago because nobody knows where Pekin is.
Oh,
Pekin,
right.
Illinois.
That's off.
Is that
which
like
is
Pecan?
Right by Bloomington,
Yeah.
Isn't that
Illinois.
off of Interstate 39 or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in the burbs of Chicago, and so because people from Chicago, literally from Chicago, will be offensive if I should say I'm from Chicago, but I didn't actually live in Chicago proper. So just to make that clear.
Yeah. It's like New York.
Understand.
Yeah,
From New York.
exactly.
Well, you're from the city, then you're not from New York, right?
Right.
That's how they get. They get a little
Like I'm from the
snobby.
Bronx.
They get
Yeah.
a little snobby.
Oh, it gets down to the zip code.
Yeah.
You know what
Do
zip
they
code?
really? They're like that.
Oh
huh?
yeah. Oh yeah. I told a woman that I used to work for
It's
at a
those
school
blue
district.
states, man. Those blue cities.
You know, I talk to people, are you from Phoenix? Nobody ever says, no, I'm from Avondale, you know? It's
Right.
like, yeah, we're from Phoenix.
We all claim each other. It's like, yeah, one big happy family. Get on in. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I only moved to the Valley in the last 2 years. I worked for Publico Park Military Reservation before here, and I was the IT support manager, and then I graduated to being the IT program manager.
Okay.
So I've lived in the Valley for almost 2 years as of this coming December, so next month. And but I lived in Tucson for 21 years. So
Okay.
I've been here so long that my Facebook and other social media sites reflect, that you're an Arizona native when. So I
Right.
find those so funny. And you learn how to steer your car with 2 fingers. And,
Yeah, right.
you learn how to park, when it's half a mile away because you have shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, shade, that's important around here.
It's very important. Yeah.
Drive in the left lane to be under the trees. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having plenty of shade this weekend, though, right?
We're getting some rain.
Yeah, finally.
We are.
A little more rain.
It's
Yeah.
going to cool down.
Yep.
We've been in the 80s. They say we're saying goodbye to the 80s after Friday.
I like the 80s. It was a great time to grow up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say goodbye to the 80s.
Except
we've
for the
been-
music.
Yeah, we've been Phoenix weather for the last few weeks has been like a great oldie station, the best of the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's we're gonna be down there now, 70s, 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I think next week is supposed to a couple days gonna be 68 or so, 40s at night.
Yeah.
People are going to start
The
wearing long
mosquitoes
pants
are gonna
again.
go away.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
nice.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've been horrible this
They
year.
were
Yeah.
they were bad this year.
And they're big.
Yeah.
Yep, we had a lot of rain, so we're supposed to pick up another inch or so.
Oh, that'd be
That's,
nice.
That's a lot for us, folks.
Yep.
Yep.
That'd be
So,
nice.
how did you end up at Gruber?
So when I was working at the school district in Marana Unified in Tucson, actually Marana, you guys were my vendors.
Okay.
My UPS vendors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I worked with another gentleman before Justin, and Justin introduced himself to me, and Justin was just a great resource in terms of, we were doing a lot of projects because we had the benefit of building a school in 2014. So the community put up $143 million of bond money in 2014, and in 2010, the community gave us $43 million. So of those amounts, I had $10 million to my disposal, and $12 million in the second batch in 14. So we were really interested in fortifying our infrastructure.
Sure.
Yeah, and so we were upping the uptime in terms of our server rooms and making sure that that we had everything 24/7, because that's the kind of world we live in. And Justin and Gruber were an amazing and continue to be an amazing resource, and it's great to be a part of the team and the family.
Great.
Yeah, that's cool. Nice
Yeah.
story. A little bit about that, though. It seems like a large scale to entail. I mean, taking on that type. So what did that entail when you got into it?
Sure. So there's roughly 2,000 employees and roughly 12,500 kids at the school district. So it's really about infrastructure, not only in terms of electronics, but also the internal human resource infrastructure in terms of having the right people in the right place with the right knowledge and whatnot. So as a director, I had 4 managers report directly to me, and then underneath them, I had about 11 technicians report to 1 or 2 of those managers. And so there were 17 schools. And so, it seems daunting at first, but as long as you have, again, the infrastructure in place and the personnel in place, those kinds of battles aren't really as hard to fight, rather, because collectively there's a lot of, ability to which to converse with each other in terms of trying to work out problems. And that way, like one certain person, whether it be a manager or a technician at a school, didn't feel like they were completely isolated and having to resolve problems for themselves, because everybody was in the same department, of course. And so that we're all interested in trying to better ourselves as a group and individually.
Great. Yeah. I mean, the technology advancements for the schoolroom, the classroom itself, and then the organization as a whole, school districts, has grown exponentially over the last 20 years since you've been in it. Mm-hmm. I think back to our days, right, of just textbooks and no tech at all. Right. Overhead projector with the little gels and all that kind of stuff, to what exists now. I'm not sure. I think the jury's out on the screen time thing and learning via screen versus the old-fashioned way. Mm-hmm. I hate to sound like the guy that goes, back in my day, right? But
you walk 3 miles each way up and uphill, downhill.
Exactly. But being a little bit more involved than the average bear in the political arena itself, and then dealing with things like the bonds and overrides and talking about results,
right, like
grades and proficiency and all that. Those are things that I look at tech and I say, well, it has a potential to be a great tool, but what are the results, right? Because at the end of the day, you can spend a lot of money doing a lot of things, but is it getting into the young skulls full of mush, right?
I like what you just said. Is it a great tool?
Right.
You have to look at it from the perspective that this is a tool, for our arsenal to help with these programs.
Right.
So when you're looking at it overall, I understand where you're coming from. So you have to take a look the technology versus a piece of paper.
Right.
Where does the benefit come? I could only imagine you're going to find somewhere meld in between that, where there's an intersection, that is a best fit.
Well, and there's different learning styles. So, are the schools adapting to the learning styles, or is it just one, scattershot approach? Because some people do. I know I do really well when I read stuff.
Right.
I have a lot of retention.
Right.
And for me, that's how I did best. It was just kind of reading books and understanding things, but classroom time was important to clarify concepts.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so
when I look at videos on YouTube and all that, I'm trying to learn something. Yeah, okay, I know how to change this part on my car. I can get that, but some of the stuff is not as meaningful, I guess.
Yeah, so like for me anyway, my retention level is definitely based on like writing notes, and I find that myself, like whether like I'm journaling at night or writing notes, I find that I keep that information much longer than if I just watch a video, for instance, or read something. I have to kind of take notes and to retain it. Going to your earlier question about electronics in the classroom and how much they benefit or not, what I would say is that a lot of leaders across Arizona and across the country, they're not getting technology for the sake of having technology. They're finding it because of raw data that supports it. It's not to say that there aren't hybrid classrooms in terms of having books and technology and so on and so forth. The one thing that I did learn very, very quickly by going to conferences and seminars and synagogues and stuff like that was, we in our 50s and 60s, we are not digital natives. That's a very cliche term nowadays because it's kind of thrown around a lot. But we didn't grow up with. I was born in 1970, so like I went to a fairly a good school, and we had class labs or computer labs in the 1980s. because we had Motorola down one street and we had Honeywell down the other.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of tax revenue from that, right?
Sure.
So it was amazing. But I don't consider myself a digital native because, digital natives are kind of by definition that they have an iPhone or an iPad or an Android in their hands at a very early age, like 3 or 4 or 5. So going back to your question about, how is it best to learn? I think the answer is it's, there's a best way for a person, but not best way for everyone. And so knowing that these kids nowadays are absolutely digital natives, the fact that they're, they're not going to miss peeling back the pages of a book, right? Because they didn't have that,
Right.
but they're going to understand how to use and manipulate a tool like you were saying, and you were saying it's just a tool.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing you'll learn about me over time is that I'm a natural skeptic on things. And I think that, educators tend to promote self-serving processes, whatever makes it easier for them, not necessarily what makes
What's
it better
best,
for
yeah.
everybody. And that's just my take on experiencing the community itself, the education community, is that there's a lot of there's probably no nice way to put it, but it's full of a lot of entitled people who have a superiority complex, and they don't approach education from a humble perspective. Teachers, again, when I was growing up, were in education not for the money. They were in it because it was more like a calling.
Sure.
And there are a lot of people, we hear a lot in the news about, oh, education's been underfunded for, no, it hasn't. It's more funded now than it's ever been, and the results continue to plummet.
But how much of those funds
and
are being
then I
used-
was told with this override that just passed in Deer Valley, I was told, well, because proficiency's gone down in the last 20 years from in the mid 70s to the 50s and 40s, right? Oh, well, the tests change. I said, did the definition of proficiency change? Because I don't
Good
think
question.
so.
Yeah.
Right. And I argue with people in the industry, in that calling. And so I just think that, again, technology plays a role. It absolutely does. I think it's super important that it's not like a boob tube like TVs were for parents. It became the babysitter, right? It can't be that. And the teachers have to be proficient in the technology before the students can be. I don't think they learn together. I think that one leads the other. Otherwise, you have it's the blind leading the blind kind of thing.
Well, what I would say is that teaching is still very much a noble profession for sure. I mean,
sure.
you don't get
Can
into
be,
you
sure.
you don't get into education to be rich. You can work you can work your way up through the ranks and be assistant superintendent and stuff like that, and then yield more money. But what I wanted to address earlier is that I don't think teachers are trying to implement technology in the classroom because it's easier. It's actually harder on them because they, like you were just mentioning, they have to be as much in tune with the technology that they are. It's like a math teacher, right? Just take simple math. The math teacher has to be, in many cases, the smartest person in the room.
Right.
When you have an English teacher, an art teacher that's leading direction or leading education efforts with a piece of technology, they also need to be the person, because a lot of the tools that are used in the classroom are not only those that were meant for the classroom, but outside the classroom. So the ones that were kind of born and raised in the classroom, kids don't use those platforms and don't use those technologies at home because it's really meant for the classroom.
Right.
But when you get into the vast, the 75% of the technologies that are outside the classroom that are used inside the classroom, it takes a lot for a teacher to keep up with, again, the digital natives, because these kids have had an instrument in their hands since a very early age, and so the 30, the 40, the 50 somethings that are teaching have to be as adept at utilizing technology as those in their classroom.
Sure. I mean, it's like any business. At the end of the day, when there's a high adoption rate on any technology that's implemented, like things we're working on right now, to analyze how processes work and then try to use technology to solve problems, to improve quality, reduce time devoted to whatever given task. I understand those are adjunct. They're tools, but learning math is math, right? Unless you're doing Common Core, and then but I still like my times tables. I'm memorizing, but algebra is going to be algebra, geometry is going to be geometry, and the tools that help you teach it, if they detract from the teaching, then they become a hindrance, right? So what you point out about them being almost disadvantaged creates an imbalance in the classroom, which means technology can be as much of a hindrance as it can be a help, because learning English doesn't change. So history doesn't change. I mean, there's more of it, but learning, all of the things that kids are supposed to be there for to become proficient in, when we throw things in the way, it hinders. And I'll use a great example. Early on in my business career, I can't remember what I was doing, but I was working with a spreadsheet, and back then it was Microsoft Works, right? So it was a bundle. It was a database, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
a spreadsheet, and
You're
the word
dating yourself.
processor. Right. I know, but I would find myself spending more time building a spreadsheet to produce something, to produce an output, than I would have spent by just writing it down and taking a calculator and figuring it out. And when I realized that it was taking away from my time, I started going back to, unless it's going to be a repetitive task, like in a database when we're sucking data down from like a digital dialer and then analyzing the data. That had a place for, developing routines. But for simple stuff, I always, I found myself after time going, why am I spending so much time figuring this out when I could just figure it out real quick?
Right.
You know? And so that's where it became a hindrance. And I had the epiphany or the realization for my own benefit that it was going to take less time to just do it rather than make it look this way.
And I sometimes have that approach too. When it comes to project management, there's obviously Microsoft Project and other tools that are available. Sure. I find that like front loading all that data into Microsoft Project takes a lot more time than just doing some of the basics of, populating your Outlook calendar with dependencies, benchmarks, all the kind of classic things of project management.
Right.
But, what I would say is that it depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. And what I would say is that, the technology that kids have nowadays, obviously Microsoft Works was a very older program at the time, even for us. But like, I'm just saying that the technology is advanced such that I don't know I don't know the honest answer of whether or not kids now feel the same way that you did back in the day when this kind of because the computer revolution has really only been going on since the 1980s, if you think about it.
Right.
You had BBSs, and then you had the internet take off as a commercial entity in 1993, 95. I worked for an ISP in DC.
Al Gore invented it earlier than that.
Yes, that's what I heard. No. No, that's it. Internet, of course, I know you're kidding, but the internet is a DARPANET project based on the United States military from 1969, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
It's fascinating that
We
it
have a
became
comment there on TikTok. Gen Z dude, how many sundials did John and Mark grow up with? Yeah, thanks.
You could have just made that comment and not told me you were Gen Z.
Just so you're aware, this guy here actually helped out with Stonehenge. That's as long as he's been around.
Say it right.
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge.
I can't get that right. Henge.
Haven't you seen Spinal Tap?
Like Hinge?
Yeah.
Like Hinge, only
Henge. Stonehenge.
Henge.
It's one of those things.
Oh
Warsh.
my gosh. Yeah.
Let's do the Warsh.
Yeah. No, I mean, but to your point, they don't miss it because they can't do this part of it. If they could do this part of it, then they would know the difference between the two. We did grow up in an era where it was a transition period, and we know the difference.
Right.
But then it becomes incumbent on us if we're training people, if we're teaching people to give them the best way of accomplishing things, not just, oh, here you go and that's it. There's only one way to do it.
Right.
Because then, you're not raising thinkers, you're raising robots.
To
Yeah.
that point, and I want to talk about this briefly, there is a disconnect in the family unit because the one thing we don't do is teach who should be the teachers, mom and dad at home, or mom
Right.
or dad.
Exactly.
But they are left behind.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
have kids that,
Yeah.
like you said, they're coming up in this digital technology that their own peers, their family that's up above them, has no clue or idea of what they're learning in school. So when you come home to do the homework, we're just as dumbfounded in some aspects saying, well, this is how we did it. And the kid's like, what do you mean?
Right.
You know,
and I can take that a step level, a step greater. I know that you're having a Deer Valley come in next week. So in school districts, you generally speaking, it's not bring your own device. Mostly, it's usually you give a device to the student.
Right.
And the reason behind that is because the teacher, again, they're trying to maintain order in the classroom and not only know the content in which they're teaching, but how to work the device itself. But so if you had a bunch of different devices and the teacher is trying to sort out an Android from an iPhone and all this.
Yeah.
But the point is like you take that device home, and now let's say it's a Chromebook, right? And mom and dad are either Windows folks or Mac folks, and they've never seen a Chromebook in their life. Now all of a sudden, not only are they trying to teach the content, but they're trying to learn how to manipulate a Chromebook in case
Yeah.
there's issues, with wireless or actually trying to, get the class plan out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is
Yep.
a disconnect there, and it's almost like, how do you work? How do you fight that system? How do you educate, those people?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Chromebooks, active parenting, all of that. Because I know some great parents out there who really do take the time to learn and grow with whatever is happening with their kids. And then there are those, again, who just hand them off to the school
Correct.
and then, and that's a problem that's always existed, although I think now it's more prevalent than it's probably ever been.
Well, I don't think that, again, from what I have seen, especially with my grandkids nowadays being
Yeah.
back in the school system, I think there's a disconnect at home where the parents aren't educated on how to use these same tools and materials, so they don't know how to react.
Right.
If that makes sense, or how to help educate their children. But at the same time, too, as a parent, you got to step up and knock on the teacher's door. Hey, can you give me a hand and educate me so I know how I need to educate my children at home?
Right.
So I just see that disconnect being there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't touch on this too much, but I know that there's a teaching model where, because again, I'm not an educator, but where the kids actually teach themselves as peers or the grade below them, because we were talking about pneumatic ways of remembering things, active versus passive, and active is like writing notes, and you were talking about that as well. In terms of learning, there's a lot of data supporting, and rightfully so, that when you teach, your peer or class level below, you're able to remember the data much more because all of a sudden you're coming from a standpoint that you are the subject matter expert, the SME, right?
Right.
And so, like, having that kind of tiered operation where you're teaching somebody else also helps remember, it allows one to remember things a little bit better.
Well, yeah, I mean, not to make it an example, a trite example, but when we used to have to fly to a city and a cab takes you somewhere as opposed to you driving yourself, have it in a rental car.
That's classic.
You remember things
Absolutely.
a whole lot easier.
Absolutely.
And know where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah, when I went back to Chicago for 4 years, I knew how to drive and I knew sort of where to drive, but my parents drove me everywhere until, I went to college. And then when I was in college, I was at a university 60 miles away. So I still didn't really drive much in my neighborhood and surrounding areas,
Right.
except for in the summer, which was, 2 months or whatever. So yeah, you learn by practicing and doing. You got to
Yeah.
get the reps in for sure.
And it can be, and it's super simple too, because I used to fly around a lot for business. So I'd end up in different cities, and I found just a tremendous difference between if I rented a car or I took a cab from the airport in, number one, my willingness to actually go and explore, but also just remembering where I was and knowing relationally, where I was, north, south, east, west, where I was in the city and all that. It
Yeah.
just was easier for me
Yeah.
to navigate.
When I moved
because
here to
I-
Phoenix,
yeah.
I went through that.
Yeah.
I grabbed a car and I just drove till I didn't know where I was at, right?
Yeah.
And then within moments, well, seriously, it seemed like moments, I realized we have a grid system here.
Right.
If I'm at Central and I want to go east, we're going to be in streets. If
Yeah.
I want to go west, we're going to be in avenues.
Yeah. Right.
And then you knew where the 100th block was. So now you know, hey, this is perfect. It's a grid system. You can learn to drive here rather easily.
Yeah, you don't want to do that in
Unless
LA
you're
'cause
caps
you'll
on
end
a
up
motorcycle.
you don't want to end up in LA. Yeah.
What's with the drive-by?
This is easily one of the largest cities to drive in terms of
Oh, yeah.
navigating. It's traffic aside, and if you're fortunate to live somewhere close to where you live, work, vice versa, this is hands down. Like, it's better than DC. It's better than Chicago.
Yeah.
The grid system is great for sure.
Yeah.
It's for such a large city of it's the fifth
It
largest city in
is.
the country.
I agree. I think that's very easy to get around in and not hard to explain either, which is even better.
Right.
No, you just go down. Yeah,
It says Mitch is a natural. Hey, there you go.
That's
There you go.
Pete.
That's good old Pete. Hey, we have a few minutes left, so wow, this time goes fast, doesn't it?
did, right?
Why don't you talk a little bit about what you're doing here now with us? I mean, we talked about a little bit from your past, but what are you doing today with us?
Yeah.
Sure. So, number one, I've never worked for a sales/commercial organization that, in terms of the selling of goods and all that good stuff. So, I'm really trying to learn your business along the side, the same time in which I'm trying to learn because I have the keys to the kingdom of the IT enterprise here.
Yeah.
And I have to get myself further entrenched with being able to better support everybody, not just on the local area network side of things, but the wide area network and and the internet, obviously. But I'm grateful to be here because Gruber has obviously spent a lot in terms of developing the kind of tools and supporting so that way we have a reasonable amount of good uptime. And so I guess to answer your question, long story short, I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm trying to understand, not only as an individual, but collectively what the biggest concerns that you guys have from a technology standpoint. Because the more data that I collect, then I can find out best ways to remedy situations and create opportunities based upon those threats, right?
Yeah.
And so, I'm still, I'm 3 to 4 weeks in, and I'm still feeling my way around.
Still the greenhorn.
Yeah, definitely. And
Well, it's a good sign you're still here. So,
Yeah, right?
the gentleman to my right kept saying when I was walking in, "Oh, you showed up again."
He walks in the morning. Oh,
Yeah.
Mitch, you here again?
Yeah. Little of ye faith.
Yeah, right.
No, it's been great being here, and like I said, it's all because of Justin. And fast forward 15 years, 20 years, 15, 20 years somewhere there. Yeah, here I am.
It goes by so fast.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is that we're very forward thinking as a company. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of areas in which we can improve. I mean, there's nobody even from Pete, the owner, all the way down. There's a lot of things that we can improve upon. The idea for a person in my position, because one of the things that Mark hired me for was also my project management capabilities. And so, we're doing Project Nile, which is an infrastructure upgrade for our ERP system. So we're not only looking at that, we're looking at other avenues in which to streamline the business so that folks like you on the operation and sales side can really benefit from these tools that lead to better sales, lead to better leads, better processes, shipping, everything, from head to toe. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of opportunities there, and for what it is, I think we've done really well. It's part of our routine what we've got, and I've been a part of computer conversions and all of that before, and I think it's a we're a ways away from that, but there's a lot of excitement out there for being able to utilize some current technology efficiencies that we couldn't leverage today.
Right.
So we're all excited to have you here and to be a part of that. I think it's going to be a great journey as we learn with each other. Not just how we do it, but how can we do it better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, the
And growing along that road.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes organizations, people get into silos and they sort of have this one way of thinking about things. What are we talking? Oh, dear Lord, what do we got here?
Oh yeah, you would pull that picture out, wouldn't you?
Oh my God, too funny.
A little bit of advertising there for us.
Yeah.
See, sometimes you got to do it the old-fashioned way, right?
Right,
You know?
There we go.
Nice one.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I'm right back at you there,
Yeah,
big guy.
yeah. I guarantee there's some other people behind that one. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Like
some
who?
others put you up to that, I'm sure.
Do you really
I'm
think
sure.
it takes anybody to put me up to anything?
Probably not.
No, probably
no.
Well, so if you've joined us today, you already know we're at a new time for probably your time zone. We're now we were the same time as California. Now we're 1 hour later.
Yeah, we haven't even set our
We're
clock
on
properly
mountain time.
yet.
Yeah, where's the IT guy?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
correct, isn't it?
Yeah. let's
Oh
get this
no,
guy
it's
on the
wrong.
job. It's wrong.
The time zone changed.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Our own
Yeah.
clocks changed on us.
Clock should be Arizona time.
Should be. What's up with that, Cass?
On, get it together. Yeah. So anyway, remember always 3 o'clock every Thursday Arizona time, right?
Mountain time. Right?
Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah. I just Arizona's the center of the universe as far
It
as I'm
is.
concerned.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to
No
be
question
here
about
next
it.
week.
It's like the Cretaceans, right, on Enterprise.
Yeah.
And how come you didn't set your clock to our capital city, right?
Right.
This is the capital city right here.
Yep.
I'm not going to be here next week. So Mark has some very special guests coming in. I thought maybe you wanted to explain what's going on next week.
I do. So, kind of continuing on the theme a little bit as it relates to schools, I have Paul Carver, who is the president of the school board for Deer Valley Unified School District, along with one of his IT guys that's going to be here. We're going to be discussing in detail school tech and what they do in Deer Valley and what works and where they think it's going. So we're going to be excited to have them here.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff.
Exciting.
Yep. Well, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this podcast. We're here because you're here. We appreciate you every week showing up. And, John, knock it off. don't. If you
There
need
we
a
go.
quote, don't McDo it.
Yes, just
Call
McDo
Mark,
it.
Bob, or Crystal. Remember. Anyway, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. And if you have any comments, feel free to write them on the replay, and we'll make sure and respond to those. Or you can email us at wired@gruber.com, and we'll respond to your emails as well. So for now, we want to thank Mitch for being here. My name is Mark Beach.
I'm John Dotson. Mitch, thank you once again, and welcome to
Yes.
Gruber.
Thanks for having me. Thank
Absolutely.
you. All the way around.
Peace.